It's Retro Podcasts with your host, Retro Lion. We talk music, entertainment, films, and more. And now, here he is, live, Retro Lion.
And it's Scooby-Doo here. Great to talk to you and to be on the Retro Podcast.
Yes, thank you. Welcome, Neil. So today we have Neil Fanning here for an episode. And Neil, you're from Australia, is that correct?
Yes, I live in beautiful Australia. And it was fortunate that Scooby-Doo 1 in 2001 was filmed in my hometown on the Gold Coast in Queensland, Australia, where they decided to make Spooky Island and that first movie. And fortunately, I was able to be on there and provide the voice acting Scooby-Doo on set live with all the actors for the whole 5-month shoot. And then went into the studio and recorded a lot of times to get the final cut together.
Very cool. And something I've been curious to know about the first movie, since it takes place in Spooky Island, was like, did they build like an actual set for the film? Like, was it an actual like sort of Disney type town for the film, or was like some of it CG?
No. All the only CG portions of Scooby-Doo 1 and 2 were all the visual effects, of course. So the Scooby, obviously, he's not there for the whole shoot. We had 2 opportunities, one in each film, where there was a performer in a suit. But apart from that, there was nothing there. It was just me. So A camera's here. You're Shaggy, you're acting to me, and I'm acting the role back to you, being recorded on microphone. And all that was going back to the executives in Warner Brothers in Burbank.
Mm-hmm.
And so they built Scooby-Doo into the film later on in computer generated image. This is cutting edge for 2001, and the amazing team. Leon Jewson, who was the animation director, who became one of my best friends on the show. He also did 1 and 2, and Peter Crossman, and all the amazing, talented computer visual effects team did an amazing job. But they were all live sets. The interiors of, the Spooky Island main foyer area, that was a massive set in Soundstage 6 at that point, at the Gold Coast Warner Brothers studios. And then obviously lots of sets in the studios. We took over the whole studios, and I think there was 6 sound stages at that point. And now it's 9, and they've got lots of other things there 20 years later. But and then we went out on locations and shot in and around southeast Queensland. So Brisbane's the capital of Queensland, and we shot all the airport scenes at the Brisbane airport, where that was the opportunity where we had a performer dress up in the in old lady grandma Scooby. That was a friend of mine, Marco Sinigalia. He's an amazing stunt performer as well. And so he did that role. And then Tangalooma Island off Queensland, off Brisbane, is an island resort area where where Spooky Island was set. So I think we were there for 3 weeks, with lots of hundreds of extras. And we basically took over the whole resort. We booked it out for the whole time, and it's become a bit of a locations tourism spot. A lot of Scooby-Doo fans around the world want to make their pilgrimage to Spooky Island and get their photos on the wharf, the jetty, where we met Rowan Atkinson, Mondavarius at the time, and then all the scenes the pool area where Mark McGraw and all the great bands played, and all those scenes. So yeah, it was 5.5 months on location in Australia, and all the cast absolutely, and the crew from America absolutely loved Australia, and it was a very exciting time. At the time, it was the largest big budget film of its type in Australia to that point. So there's a lot of buzz around Scooby-Doo when it was first filmed.
That sounds incredible. An alternate universe where Mr. Bean, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and I can't remember Matthew Lillard's character name from Scream, but like an alternate universe where all three of them show up, and Scooby-Doo, of course.
And Freddie Prinze Jr. and Linda Cardellini and Isla Fisher. I mean, all these great performers and actors were really at the top of their game and super popular at the time. And it was a real coup to get the cast that we did. Pamela Anderson doing her cameo in the beginning. She just finished Baywatch. Sarah she was actually shooting the last series of Buffy the Vampire Slayer while we were also shooting Scooby-Doo. So she actually went across twice to finish the last series of Buffy and also do her scenes that she was in on Scooby. So we shot around her so she could complete Buffy and then come over to us for the rest of the show. And Ron Atkinson, of course. I mean, he's Mr. Bean and Blackadder and all those amazing things. So, and Freddie had, he was extremely popular. He'd just done, I think, 5 or 6 movies with Matthew Lillard, Wing Commander and all these great movies. I knew what you did last summer and all these shows that they all worked together on. And they were great friends and still are. Great. It was the camaraderie of the whole cast was pretty special. And they welcomed me into the cast. And I was able to give 110% on every take, and that really helped their performance. Because without me there, essentially it's them looking at an X on the wall with tape, off screen, and an assistant director reading the script, going Reichs, Raggy, Raronsta. It just doesn't. It really helped them to have me acting the role back to them as Scooby. Because all my facial expressions, they actually recorded me in the studio and filmed me, and all that footage went back to the CGI team at Burbank, at the lot of Warner Brothers, and they had me down on the bottom of their screen, and they were building Scooby with what I did with my face, and it's I open up at that point, and then I've got the sad face when Scooby-Doo. All those sorts of really emotional scenes really helped them to create this seamless integration of live action. So it was pretty special.
Very cool. I have a beagle, and the expressions that she makes always reminds me of your take on Scooby-Doo. And I've heard somewhere that there's a rumor going around that James Gunn has ideas for a Scooby-Doo 3. Have you been aware of?
Well, look, it's been spoken about a lot, Ben, in the past. So what happened was I was there for the premiere of Scooby-Doo 1 at Mann's Chinese Theatre on Sunset Boulevard in LA. Massive opening weekend. It was Memorial Weekend, and it's still a Warner Brothers record box office for the month of June, in their history. And it's that still stands. We did $56 million in the first weekend. The budget was only 80. So I had breakfast with the producer, Richard Suckle, before I came back to Australia. And he said, look, on the back of these initial figures that we've got from box office, they've greenlit Scooby-Doo 2 with an option for Scooby-Doo 3. We'd love to have you involved. And highlight of my career, of course, probably the biggest voice actor's role in the world at that point. And it was amazingly exciting to be involved and play my part in the success of that film and subsequent films, Scooby-Doo 2. We had an option for 3, which was for 3 years, that we all signed on to. And that just ran out because not that they didn't want to make another film. It was that Scooby-Doo was a tentpole film. So in studios, they have certain tentpole films that are going to prop up the business. and Scooby-Doo was one of those for Warner Brothers. And then this little film called Harry Potter came along, and yeah, it did okay. So they just sort of shifted focus to more of those, and fantasy was really big at that point. So it sort of transitioned a bit away from the live action sort of scenario into more fantasy and magic and all those sorts of aspects of the genre. And so it just didn't happen. But we're all standing by. I've been standing by for 20 years, Ben, waiting for a live action opportunity. And because I'm not the cartoon voice, so the cartoon voice is our voices are quite different. So the live action voice that I perform is more gravelly. It's more real. It's more, I guess, seated in reality. So it does interact seamlessly with other human performers, whereas the cartoon voice is, by its nature, cartoony. So the voices are quite different. I can do the Scooby-Doo cartoon voice, and as soon as Frank Welker retires, the voice legend that he is, and I hope he goes on for a long time. But when he does, I'd really love to take over the voice of Scooby-Doo for the subsequent cartoons that they're going to produce, which will probably never end, and I hope they don't, because there's a huge Scooby-Doo fan base around the world, and it's multi-generational, and it's just so successful that down the track, I would love to do that. But there is an opportunity, finally, about 8 weeks ago. Berlanti Productions and Netflix announced a Scooby-Doo live-action TV series that's being greenlit, and they are in production at the moment. I've been in contact with them, and I hope to be back behind the mic and reprising my role as the live-action voice. I'd really love to do that. So please, Berlanti Productions, let's go. I'm waiting to be involved in that production and be live on set and help all the other actors to do their performances in that show. So it's really exciting times, Ben. At the moment, it just seems like there's a resurgence of Scooby-Doo in the zeitgeist, and I do a lot of Comic-Cons around the world, and like you, they all ask, is there a Scooby-Doo 3 at some point? Let's hope. James Gunn, who wrote Scooby-Doo 1 and 2, he's done okay, James. Amazing career, obviously, and I couldn't be happier for his success, being the co-chairman of DC for Warner Brothers, and he's currently shooting the Superman movie at the moment, the latest one that he wrote. So he's pretty busy. I know that, but we've been in touch, and look, if there's an opportunity, then James is in the right spot to be able to drive that train, and hopefully, yes, we all get back on board.
Yeah. Well, you don't know what the future holds.
I've got all my paws crossed. Yeah. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Yes.
What does Scooby have to say about it?
Well, he's so excited. I'd love to come back and act with all the actors and see where this TV series can go. It's amazing. There's so many mysteries to solve.
and
I just love doing that, because this response that you just gave then, the laughter, the happiness, that's what I'm all about, and it's so easy for me to step back into that space. I do the voice for everybody at Comic-Cons, of course, and I love just putting smiles on faces, and this is where I'm back now. I just stepped into this space recently. I didn't do anything. I didn't even have a public Instagram or Facebook for 19 years, because I've been really busy, constantly working in film and television. And look, I'm quite a private person, but it just seems like I've been asked constantly to do things and be present and do podcasts and things. And I've done bits and pieces, but now I'm back. I really want to give back to the fans, and it means so much to everybody, this character and these two movies in particular. They're formulating of their childhood. And now we're getting 3 generations watching the movie, and they still hold up. They're 20 years old, but they still hold up as being extremely well made, directed, edited, produced films that are still funny. It's an introduction to children in the scary world. And so there's so many, great things about the movies that, let's hope they continue.
And speaking of Comic-Con, you also have a website where you sell Scooby-Doo merch, but these Scooby-Doo merch you actually personally sign.
Of course. I'm just new into this scene, Ben. So if you DM me, I am getting back to you, and you know that because I just did Sydney Supernova on the weekend, and it was massive. Comic-Con, it's the biggest Comic-Con in Australia, and I performed there with Robert Patrick and all the other great guests that we had, I meet all these people. Of course, I was absolutely smashed. I was really, really busy, which was fantastic. I love it, and I give people the time. I try to, I feel the responsibility to make sure that them meeting me is going to fulfill their expectation of this great character, so I do take the time with everybody, but prior to that, and moving forward, I'm going to be doing a lot more. I go to Perth this weekend in Australia, which is the other side of our country, to do the Supernova for this little period, and then I am going to be. Please follow me on the socials, folks. Scooby-Doo Neil Fanning on Instagram and Facebook, because as I say, I've just started having a public profile, so I am releasing my own personal BTS, behind the scenes photos and videos of all my time on the Scooby-Doos, and photos and things and scripts, and I've got lots, and this is my personal collection, which I've never released. So it's really exciting for the fans. They're absolutely frothing when I come out with stuff that they've never seen before, all this time later. And that's the joy that I want to bring to people. And it's really interesting, and keep the interest there. So please follow me, because I've got some pretty exciting news coming up, and that I'm going to be releasing very soon. I'm just finalising some details to do some pretty exciting Comic-Cons moving forward, and that's all I can say at the moment. Sorry. And on my website, ScoobyDooNeilFanning.com. And yes, I sign them all personally, and I get back to everybody. They DM me. Great to meet you on the weekend at Supernova Sydney, and it's me. It's me, because I'm saying, I remember you, Ben. You had this great watch on, and there's no way that anyone else could know that but me. And I talk about our interactions. So yes, it's me getting back to everyone personally. And I follow people. I just want to get myself out there to people to share the joy.
Mm-hmm. Well, fully understood. That's a good thing to keep in touch with followers on Instagram. And I have this illustration for you. It's a parody illustration of Scooby-Doo. So in the second Scooby-Doo movie, where Shaggy and Scooby, when they go into the bar, the private bar, and they're like wearing disguises,
yep.
Whenever I watch that scene, they always remind me of John Travolta and Samuel Jackson from Pulp Fiction. They always remind me of their So I thought it'd be funny if it was Shaggy and Scooby as Travolta and Jackson from Pulp Fiction. I mean, yes, they were in there.
Vinny and what was Samuel L. Jackson's character?
Yeah,
anyway, yes,
Vincent and I think it was Jules.
Jules. Yes, you're right.
I've never seen the movie, but I am familiar with the characters.
What?
Yeah, I've never seen Pulp Fiction.
It is one of my favorite movies. I'm a Tarantino huge fan, and a Travolta fan, and I'm hoping to meet and perform with John Travolta, because my agent also looks after Mary from Koala Bear BAR Promotions in Melbourne, or looks after the entire Grease cast. And we just performed last year together in Edinburgh, Scotland, for Monopoly events. at a Comic-Con there, and they were trying to get John, and they just couldn't get him because the schedules didn't meet up. But I would love to meet John Travolta and all the cast, Barry Pearl and everybody. They're great friends of mine now, and they're so much fun to be around. We have a great time. But yeah, so have you got this illustration?
It's not completed yet, but I should have completed next week.
Right. Are you an artist?
Yes, I am. I illustrate. I'm a freelance illustrator. I designed this background.
Right. Mate, that's sick. That looks cool. Yeah, I love it.
Love
it.
Star Retro Podcast. And for people that want to go into voice acting, what is the best advice you would pass on to them?
Right. Yes, I get this question a lot. And I would say you've got to have the creative mind to be able to articulate properly or efficiently the vision that the director, producer, writer have for a particular character. So, you've got to have a skill set before you can be successful, and that is creativity in your mind. And so I've been an actor for 38 years or something. And so for me, the process is when I'm acting, the voice starts first because I'm a voice artist, as primarily. And then, so I start with the voice, and then I create the movements and all the other personality traits from there. So yes, creativity. You've got to have a good range in your voice. So going from very deep to falsetto. So Scrappy-Doo, for instance, is completely different to Scooby, who's guttural and deep. So Scrappy is, put him up, I'll rock him, I'll suck him. Power. So that's really up here. So you've got to have that variance in your range, and then you've got to have a good ear. So listening to things and making sure that you're hitting all the points that they're looking for when you're being directed, that's important. But strategically, really to start with, I would say just do something. So a lot of people are saying to me at Comic-Cons and messages and so on, I want to be a voice artist, and how do I do that? Okay, well, you've got a passion for it for a start. Great. So I would suggest just getting a microphone. The great thing about this podcast world that we're all in now and have been for some time is that the microphones have become really good and really cheap. So everyone's got a studio in their house, essentially. So I would say just get a mic, and there's heaps of programs online. Get a program that's going to be able to record you, and then just play with voices. Just do the ones that you're comfortable with. Obviously, you're going to do impressions of characters that you love, and that's great. We all do that. But then that's one aspect. So, having that, playing with those things and seeing how they sound, and put your characters in different situations. So the good thing about the Scooby-Doo movies was that, in the cartoons, they've only got a certain amount of time, that they have to create the story and see where Scooby can go. And so you're a bit limited as to how, what emotions you can bring out. Whereas a full-length movie, you've got the time to explore the characters more. And James Gunn, amazing writer, he cleverly scripted Scooby-Doo 1, especially, to have the gang splitting up in the beginning. So you got the classic opening with the Looney Ghost, and then they get together, and this is all being a bit humdrum now. I'm going to leave. And, and then there's sadness about what? The gang's leaving. What? So there's that aspect. And then we follow all their trajectories, the gang's trajectories, and where they go and what they do when they're not with the gang. Really interesting, where are they going to go? What are they going to do? And then coming back together on Spooky Island to solve the mystery. So it was a very clever Gunnism. Richard Suckle and I call it Gunnisms that only James Gunn, this amazing writer, could think about. And that's the skill and the extreme talent of James Gunn, is that so you've got this range of emotions. So your characters that you do, put them into volatile situations, put them into laughing, go through the gamut of emotions for that character that you do really well and play with that. How does that sound? write a few scripts, do a bit of a little bit of a play where you can do two voices. So you might do, I do Scrappy and Scooby all the time because it's fun and they love it. So, put him up, I'll rock him, I'll suck him. Oh, Rappy, oh, there's a ghost. Oh, get him. All that. So you're going from one to the other and how you can transition through that. So it's all just doing. Don't get hung up about, I need to get, this, that, and the other. That'll come when you've already got this little recording that you're going to work on and have a listen to, because, they're the ones that you do well. And then here's the creativity side. When you go in to do radio commercials at a station, you're hired as a voice artist to come in and do an hour. They book you for an hour and you come in and you're going to do at least 6, 8, 10 commercials within that hour. Now, you don't get any script leading in. You don't know what you're going to be doing. So you walk into the booth and you've got the sound engineer and the producer in the booth recording you, and that you get the scripts and then you go, okay, there's the first one. And they might be straight reads. So you've got 2 or 3 voice artists in this commercial, 30-second commercial, and it's for the cheesecake shop.
Mm-hmm.
So the girl's already done her bit, and all they need you to do is say, yeah, I love a good cheesecake. And that's it. That's that one little line in that one. But they want you to do slow it down, fast it up. Is that tone right for you? So you're going to do a lot of alts, ALTS, alternatives to what you think your idea is. So that's a straight read. Then you might get a character read. So I'll just make up something here. Avocado Land, So it's Avo from Avocado Land. That's the character. He's got this script to do, promoting this place, and so I need to ask the producer, okay, what are the notes from the client and the advertising agency? What are they looking for within this character? So I need to know certain things about it because that'll depend on what I produce. How old is he? Is he rotund or is he thin? I think he's going to be pretty chubby, and that lends another aspect to what I'm thinking about what I'm going to produce. So I get all these details, and then I do the read, and I do it the way I think it should be done. And they go, great, okay, we've got that. Something else? They want an alternative. They might want 5, 6, 7, 10 alternatives, voices to this character with the same dialogue. They don't know. They're going to pitch these ideas back to the client through the advertising agency for them to choose which one they like. So I go, there's the one I think they're going to need. That's what I think. And then I go that way. So then I go really radically different in one way, might be pitch or age or something. And then, so that's over here. And then I go the other way. So I go high and young. I don't know. And then just move those parameters in, and then you've got sort of your middle point and then these extremities of what you think they might want. And there's your alternatives for them to choose. That's how it happens. So there's all those things that you need. And then to move forward, obviously, once you've got all these things, you think, okay, I'm confident enough now to approach voice agents to get represented, because without representation, you're not going to get the work. You're just not in the mix. So what you need to do is send them a voice demo, a voice reel, okay, showing your talent. And you'll normally do 2 1 minute, no more, reels, straight voices, character voices in the one send. Okay. So what I did for my reel is I actually wrote half a dozen commercials. Okay. Because then you got characters that you can do. And I made them funny. I made them quirky. Some of them were straight reads. Some of them were, 3 to 4 different characters within that little. And these snippets are only like 10 seconds, 15 seconds, maybe 7 seconds. And edited it all together took it into a studio and got friends of mine, engineers, to put all the proper sound effects and music behind them, so they appeared as if they were real commercials, and it was all me.
It's really impressive.
So yeah, that's how you gotta think. How am I gonna separate myself from the pack? You know, you've got to stand out. It's a very competitive space, and there's very few roles. You know, they will probably get back to you and say our books are full, and they probably are, because no one really retires. Frank Welker example, he's in his late 70s. He's still performing. So it's, as long as you look after yourself and keep fit and all those things, you can do this till you're 100. Mel Blanc did, and all those things. So that's my advice to up and coming talented, and there's so many talented. I get so many people doing their voices to me when I meet them at Comic Cons, and it's fantastic. I love it, because I give them the voice back. So that if they do Scooby at me, I go, man, oh man, that was awesome. I mean, that's my very bad. I'm not warmed up. Matt, Shaggy. But anyway, look, I do a lot of voices, but yeah, it's still a lot of fun. So it's a competitive space, but if you love it, dreams come true. You got to be there. I mean, I was a voice artist for 6 years before I got Scooby-Doo. And I was in the right place at the right time. Yes, I was already in the studios recording when I heard about Scooby-Doo coming along. I put a demo in, like everybody else, to the casting director, and I got down to the last 2 in Australia and New Zealand from that demo. And then we came in for very extensive auditions live with Raja Gosnell, the director, James Gunn, the writer, Richard Suckle, producer. There's about 10 or 12 people in the audition, and they were filming it. All that went back to the executives in Burbank for them to choose. It was a pretty big deal. But part of that audition was, leading in, they said, okay, we're going to get you to come in at this time, probably half an hour, right? Yep. Because we're going to ask you a series of 10 questions, and you have to answer in the voice and in character, because you're going to be doing the live performance on set. And they needed someone who could improvise, think on their feet, come up with ideas, and be spontaneous. The voiceover he just made up, and they kept it all. Anyway, so I came in, and I went first in auditions. My thing is, if you've got 2, 3, 10 people, who wants to go first? I will always go first. That's just me, because you set the tone, you know. And so they said, okay, we'll ask you these questions, and I didn't get the questions in advance, so you know, they went through the series of questions. One of them was, Ben, if you were to dress up as a character to try and sneak in somewhere as Scooby-Doo, what would you dress as? And I went, well, I've got really good legs, so I dress up as an because no one's going to stop it on me. I didn't know. I didn't have the script. I didn't know that that's in the script. They dress Scooby up as grandma to get her on the plane to get to Spooky Island. And they were like, whoa. And anyway, they were laughing, and it was a fantastic audition. It's the best one I've ever done. And I've heard interviews with Richard Suckle recently on JB and Millie's podcast. Check that out. It's amazing. Anyway, he said about me in that interview, when I did that audition, they knew they'd found their Scooby-Doo. So it was the spontaneity, the humour. I knew the character intimately. I gave it lots of light and shade. I was giving it 150% on every take. And I was allowed to give creativity live when we were filming too. So initially when we started shooting, we'd have this scene coming up, rehearsing, and I'd say, you know, I think Scooby would say something. I'd go up to Raja, the director, and say, Raj, I think Scooby would say something here, and he'd probably react like this at the end here. Am I okay to do that? I've checked with Matt, and everyone's okay. And he goes, yep, no worries. We'll do it as an alternative. Yep, sure. And it just creates another option in the edit that they might want to use. And so, great. So I was able to, we did it as scripted first, and then we did this option, that option, these things, and their performances would change as well, the cast. Yeah. So yeah, being creative, I think that's the and I was able to, provide options while we're shooting both movies. So not just the performance side of it, it's the creativity side that I was able to contribute to, which was amazing because they kept a lot of what I suggested. So, yeah, it was great.
Well, Neil, we are coming down to the end of the interview, and we have a very famous retro podcast question. Did you happen to have a favorite retro product growing up?
Look, I did. I'm going back to the mid-70s when I was a child. So I had a BMX bike
Nice.
and a mongoose and tough wheels. I don't know if they're a thing now. But also I was pretty big into yo-yos. All the fads really that have make comebacks over time. But I was a real sporty person as well as theatrical, so I was a bit of a weird mix, really, because normally you're one or the other. But I was pretty. I liked doing everything. I'm a joiner. I like joining, things. So I did all the theatre stuff, and then joined all the sports and played soccer and athletics and all those things, which, with not knowing, led me into my stunt career, which I'll talk to you about maybe at another time, because I've got lots to talk about in stunts, acting, voices, entertainment generally. I'm a professional MC. I do about 18 different characters in interactive comedy at corporate events. So yeah, just doing lots of things in the industry. I had this sort of credo of never saying no to anything, as long as it was okay with my moral values. And I had a dressing room. I don't get dressed in toilets. Just certain things that you as a performer have standards to do. Because I am a professional. I like to be treated as such. Not that I have an ego at all. I'm very, very easy to get along with. But so do lots of things. If you love doing what you're doing, you go to work, jumping out of bed, skipping along to set, and that's me. That's me at Comic-Cons. It's me everywhere now.
Very cool. And does Scooby have a favorite retro product? Let me guess, it's Scooby Snacks.
Yeah. Where Shaggy and I cook up all our hamburgers. Where there's smoke pouring out of the Mr. Machine, it's just hamburgers, kids. Right?
I figured something like that was coming. Well, this has been Retro Podcast with Neil Fanning and his pal Scooby-Doo, and we'll see you again for another episode.
Well, it's been great to talk to you, Ben, on the Retro Podcast. Scooby-Dooby-Doo.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Spotify and follow us on Instagram. See you next week.